Before I get into this review for the Ravenloft Monstrous Compendium number 1, I have to explain the compendium format. Every edition of Dungeons & Dragons starts with 3 core books: the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. These guides are in hardbound book format, basically books you can put on your coffee table. This happens for every edition, and has had happened for every edition except one, the 2nd edition. For 2nd edition, TSR decided not to release a monster manual, but an Monstrous Compendium. They did this for money reasons, although they would say otherwise. The Monstrous Compendium was a 3-ring binder and loose leaf monster sheets with holes punched in the sides that you could insert into the binder. And they also included a few dividers to alphabetically organize your monsters. And every campaign setting would get their own Monstrous Compendium, and you would insert them into the binder. So, if you wanted every monster, you had to buy the Monstrous Compendium for every campaign setting, even if you didn't play that setting. There were several other problems with the compendium format, such as the holes in the paper coming loose, having to lug around a whole entire binder, and various other things. And in a few years, the format would be canceled, and the compendiums would be put in softback format. Needless to say, a lot of people complained about this format, and it's not very well regarded today. TSR, basically, it was said they did it for convenience, to where you put your monsters in the binder, you play your adventure, you pick out what sheets you need for the adventure, and that's all you needed was those sheets. Unfortunately, it didn't work out well. It was basically greed that caused this format. Completionists had to buy every campaign setting, like I said, and even if they didn't play it. So if you wanted monsters for every campaign setting, and it would not fill up, well, it would overfill the binder. Your binder wouldn't fit all the monsters. So eventually, TSR had to come out with a Monsters Manual 2, which was another binder and some more monsters. So you ended up carrying around 2 big old binders full of monsters, and I mean, they were thick. So convenience was not an option with that. The monster sheets were repeatedly tear loose from the 3-ring binder. There were some monsters that had 1 letter on front page, and then when you flip the page over, the monster on the back of that page started with a different letter. So where do you put it? Do you put it in letter A for the A monster, or do you put it in letter B for the B monster? Both are on the same sheet. There was that problem, and the fact that the basic monster manual did not include all the monsters from the 1st edition monster manual. For instance, the Shadow Fiend, which was in the Fiend Folio, was not in Fiend Folio anymore. It was in the Ravenloft Monstrous Compendium. There were other monsters they did like that. So if you thought you were getting all your basic monsters, you were wrong. Some of the basic monsters got moved to other campaign settings, which forced you in turn, if you wanted them, to buy those campaign settings Monstrous Compendiums. The first Ravenloft Monstrous Compendium came with about 60 monsters and 4 dividers. The art for the monsters was subjectively good. For the most part, they were written real well. The descriptions were fairly well done. There was a good variety of monsters. About 95% of them were new and unique to the setting. The real standouts are the Ravenloft Golems and the race-based vampires. Giving every race their own unique vampiric powers, weaknesses, and traits was a really good idea and would be implemented well in the Ravenloft product line. Other standouts included the Ghoul Lord, the Zombie Lord, the Ravenloft Scarecrow Reavers, the Ravenloft Elementals, and the Red Widow, just to name a few. The Shadow Fiend, as I said before, which was included in the first edition in the Fiend Folio, had been moved over to Ravenloft. Sadly though, only about half of these monsters would end up being used in Ravenloft products. So putting the compendium format aside and just reviewing the product as it is, the product itself is just average. Some of the monsters are bad, some of the monsters are good, and some of them are just okay. You really don't need this product. Like I said, half of these monsters show up in future Ravenloft products, and their stats are included in those products, which was typical of second edition. For the homebrewers who don't purchase the products, or a lot of the products, you can find stats of these monsters online at various places with relative ease. It's really the first Ravenloft Monstrous Compendium is really for completionists only, who have to have every Ravenloft product there is, like me. Yeah, save your money for other things. Now, there will be 2 more Monstrous Compendiums for Ravenloft, and we'll review those in time, but you're going to see how different they are. But the first one is just an average product, so don't worry about trying to track it down unless you are a completionist.